Hey, what's up? I'm Kenneth Nguyen, and I am Vietnamese American, mostly known for dancing on Poreotics, which was on America's Best Dance Crew Season 5 winners. And I've been touring for about the past 10 years, not really touring anymore after COVID happened, unfortunately. I'm from Anaheim, California.
Welcome to The Vietnamese. I'm your host, Kenneth Nguyen. Being part of a culture of nearly 100 million Vietnamese people in the world today comes with a lot of pain, proud history, and privilege. Join me as I highlight and explore the Vietnamese experience from all over the world.
What does it mean to be Vietnamese to you?
So being Vietnamese, obviously, you're from you're definitely going to be different if you live in America. If you're born in America and you're Vietnamese, you're automatically different because the majority around you isn't really Vietnamese, especially depending on what area you're from. But luckily for me, I moved around a lot. So I lived in places where there were no Asians, and then I moved to places where there were lots of Asians. So I've seen kind of like both sides of things. But yeah, for me, being Vietnamese just means, food, culture, parents, family, anything that involves like, I don't know, just a lot of, it's kind of hard to explain. It's a lot to absorb because I'm thinking back, I'm having all the flashbacks from my family parties and everything. But to me, that's what it means to be Vietnamese. It's just about, family and, a lot of good times and a lot of partying. So for sure, you know what I mean? And just good food.
How did you get into dancing?
I see somebody do it. I think it looks cool. I start doing it. It's like monkey see, monkey do, like a lot of my friends started doing it. And so I would just talk to my friends, hang out with them. And, people play music when they hang out. So we just started dancing and it started very innocent. Like we're just playing around, and then all of a sudden, like we start to get really passionate about it and we want to learn more things. And what other moves can we do? How else can we get better? How can we improve on our craft? And then that just became kind of like an obsession for me where I'm like, okay, what's the next thing? What can I learn now? What can I learn now? And then from there, it just kind of attracted other people that were kind of like me. And from there, you naturally just form a group. And then from there, the rest was history. Like we just started off as friends dancing in our backyard, like quite literally in my backyard.
And how old were you at the time?
I was about, I would say 13. I want to say 13. So actually, that's pretty late for kids that are starting dancing because most kids that start dance, they start like when they're 3 or 4 or 5 even. Because that's usually when parents put them in dance programs. But for me, I wasn't put in any programs by my parents because my parents were always working.
Yeah.
They still work to this day. So for me, I had to kind of find my own hobbies. And, I just kind of got attracted to it when I was in high school. Because that's when most of my other friends started doing it.
But at what point do you say to yourself, like, I'm going to keep doing this and start to compete?
So that inner dialogue, I didn't really have, which is weird because I was mostly kind of just living in the moment back then and just like going wherever. Oh, my friend says there's a dance event here, let's go here. Oh, there's a competition here, let's go here. I was just so focused on the craft itself that nothing in the outside world really mattered. Like that's how deep into it I was. And I didn't realize that until years later. When I look back, I'm like, wow, I really did not care about school or a career or whatever. I just really cared about this one thing. And I cared about it so much to the point where that became my career. So it's a different perspective on my end because, I did have those questions like kind of lingering, like from my parents. Like they're like, hey, when are you going to go back to school? And they're talking about college, right? Like, when are you going to go back to school? When are you going to, they didn't care about me getting a real job because I was already making money with dance. So they're like, yeah, just do it as long as you can because it's kind of like one of those opportunities that only happen once in a lifetime. Yeah. So.
Do you find that it really is something that only happens once in a lifetime?
Yes and no. I mean, my particular experience only happens once because now the show's canceled. Nobody could ever, you can't go back in that time anymore. And plus, dance has changed so much in the past 10 years, even the past 5 years, to the point where if you tried to do the same show again and recreate the whole dance crew hype, it's not going to happen because it's just not the thing anymore. You know what I mean? Because dance comes and goes in waves, like the trends at least, right? Sometimes it's cool, sometimes it's not cool because you see it so much, it becomes saturated.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's like, see, the difference between dance and other art forms is like dance, you really have to experience it live and kind of in person to feel the energy, right? Because if you see it on a little screen, you're only going to get so much from it, right? It's kind of like music. Like, it's way better live, obviously, but sometimes music is great when you're just by yourself, you just want to chill. But with dance, it's like, it's a complete experience that you kind of have to be there for, you know? But I don't know, that's just coming from my background, because a lot of the younger generation, they're on TikTok, so they love just scrolling through and like, oh, look at this cool dance, look at that cool dance, but it's really short. So a lot of the stuff nowadays, I feel like personally doesn't have as much effort put into it as we used to, because back then we used to have to get everyone together just to rehearse. You know, people still do it now too for big teams and stuff, but like for teams without a studio, like we would have to get everyone to my house or somebody else's house. We'd just rehearse, and this is what we were doing while we were competing too. So there was a lot of work put into the shows that we would do that would be kind of unseen, you know, and you only see the result of it.
You're bringing over friends and you're dancing, and what happens next?
So one of our friends, his name is Matt, and he just decides, you know what, because he's very observant on trends and like what's going on in the dance world and in the music world as well. Right now he's a DJ, but he would take a look at competitions and be like, hey, you know what, if this is our competition and they're doing that, what we're doing is so different, let's bring what we're doing to the competition. So what I mean is, so there's a college dance scene, right, where everyone's doing kind of the same moves, hip hop, whatever, right, and very modern styles. But then what we were doing were styles that were from like the 80s. Like we were doing old school, like funk styles, like we were doing popping and robot stuff, and they weren't really competing with that at the time. And this was like early 2000s, right? Because by the early 2000s, like popping was not cool anymore. It was cool in the 80s. And this is like 20 years later where people are doing like industry, like music video type of dancing, right? It's more modernized. And so we're like, let's bring the old school to the competition scene and see how that does. And we obviously reinvented like the old school stuff into our personal taste, and we use new music. We, you know, basically tried to upgrade it from what we like. And he saw that spark and he was like, you know what, this could actually change the dance scene by bringing something old and reinventing it and bringing it into the new scene. And so that's kind of what inspired him to go, hey guys, let's compete. We can do this because we practice so much, we do our own thing, we look completely different than other people. So we would compete with 3 guys against teams of like 20, 30, like college kids, you know. We were also at that age as well. We were like in our 18, 19s, you know. So yeah, we just brought what we did to the scene, and that just kind of, you know, turned heads.
Within 5 years, you're like thinking and formulating strategy, right? And it's a correlation that in my mind, when I think about 18-year-olds at any time, you know, when I was 18 or kids 18 today, to figure out these certain trends and the power of youth. You know, when you look back and the things that you did when you were 18 is so powerful, and it launches like these big things in your life, and you have no idea where that is going to take you at 18. You know, taking forms from the 80s, right? Like popping from the, it's amazing to hear it. And I remember seeing your dance crew probably just a few years after that, you know, all around.
Oh yeah, I remember. I think we did a performance for Saigon Electric. Do you remember that film? So that was, I forgot which year it was, probably
2011.
2011. Okay, right. Yeah, at that time we were like at our peak. Like we just got off the show. We started touring already. And yeah, and we heard about your film, and we're like, yeah, let's do it. You know, it's a Vietnamese dance film. Why not? Like, this is the first we've ever heard of something like this. You know, so we of course we wanted to be a part of it. It's a lot of the community stuff came after the show because we realized that, oh, we were on TV as just a group of like Vietnamese and Filipino kids. Like, we're representing like our countries, our, you know, our culture and everything. So we're like, yeah, anything that has to do with the community, let's help it out. Let's push, you know, for the voice, you know.
Yeah, and thank you for that. We were very touched. I don't know if you know, but Stefan's no longer with us. He passed away
I
about
see.
3 years ago, but
Oh, I
4
see.
years ago. But yeah, I remember how touched he was and how touched I was that, you know, you guys were just coming off like a national platform. It was a big deal during those years.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that he passed. I didn't know that, but yeah, it's amazing, like how far we've gone since then, you know.
The dancing for you, has it physically sort of gone away inside of you, or do you still do it?
Oh, so I still dance almost every day. The love for it definitely has not gone away. I've kind of made it a point to where, you know what, I'm pretty much gonna do this until my body can't function anymore. So that's that, you know what I mean? Because it just became a part of who I am, you know, my identity or whatever, right? I don't think I could even try to stop doing it. That's how funny it is. It's like I'm just gonna keep doing it until, you know, someone says or until my body can't do it. But I'm also trying to see how I can push that, because if you're doing the same thing over and over, you're not going to learn, right? So I actually started learning how to break dance a little more and just practicing something completely new, like out of my comfort zone, whatever, but still something that I really appreciate. And so the journey for dance is kind of like infinite in a way. You know, there's always something new to learn. So to me, it's like, okay, why not? Just keep it in my life. It only takes like 30 minutes out of my day if I'm doing it. But there's days where I don't do it, and that's totally fine. But, you know, it's a good workout. It gets my body moving. And I think that's the whole point, right? To find something that you truly love where you could actually do it on like the day-to-day basis. So I don't know if I'm going to be doing it as a career, you know, because that's different. Dancing and working versus dancing as a passion, as a hobby, two different things. But with the career stuff, I feel like when the opportunities come, I'll be ready for it, you know. But if they're not here, I'm still gonna keep it moving.
Right.
Like, that's how I am.
That's like a musician, right? They just, you know, you play and you sing and you play guitar, and just because that what moves your soul. And I imagine being physical and dancing to the music is what moves your soul, and, you know, and keeps you in shape. Now, do you ever have friends over and they ask you to dance for them?
No. You know what's funny? They don't even have to ask. I'm already doing it. Like, every time I hang out with my friends, like, anybody you ask that knows me, that hangs out with me, like, they'll tell you. They'll just be like, yeah, he's always dancing. Like, it's like they're like the type of friends that are like, hey man, like, can you stop? You know what I mean? Because I will do it that much. Like, anywhere I go. And most of the times when I hang out with my friends, like, we're trying to go to places with like loud music, you know, whatever, so where the environment actually makes sense for dance. And surprisingly enough, when we go out to these places like night markets or whatever, like, there's not a lot of dancing happening, surprisingly. And I'm like, what's going on here? Like, back then when we were younger, like, all of us would just dance like all the time. And so for me, it just goes, you know what, I'll keep dancing, you know what I mean? Because I feel like there's that gap that needs to be filled when I hang out with friends and stuff. But I'm always doing it not only just to dance, but because I fidget a lot, you know. When I'm just hanging out, if I'm just kind of nervous or whatever, like, I just end up like just kind of dancing anyway with my hands or whatever, right? It's almost like autopilot for me.
Now, when you were coming up, you know, in your teens, and you were kind of going through the developmental stage of dancing, I'd imagine you're picking out or think, grown-ups are probably thinking like this, but young kids, was there any rhyme or reason to get into the specific dance style that you got into?
Yeah, so the dance style that we got into, it was, to us, was really cool. We're doing it because we're like, dude, this is such a sick move. Like, I just want to learn it. Like, that was my kind of motivation to do it. Like, the reason for me to do it was it just felt so good, like satisfying to be able to pull off such a cool looking move, right? Because back then when you were a kid, you wanted to fit in, you wanted to be cool or whatever, right? Whatever the reason was, because that's just, sometimes kids kind of lean more towards that, or you lean more towards like other hobbies like games or whatever. I was actually also really into games as well. So the reason is just like you just wanted to do what felt good, right? And so that to us particularly just felt good, and it was also free to learn because it's a street style. It's not something you could learn in a studio anyway. Now you can, but at the time there was not really any YouTube. There was like YouTube in 2005, I think, but we learned way before that. So you would literally just have to learn from friends or the people around you, and that just so happens to be the style that people were doing because it's a street style.
And because you were doing this a lot in high school, the getting picked on or any of that bullying probably was less, I'm guessing.
So yeah, actually, I was more bullied in middle school and everything, but the moment I started to dance and have friends and just be a part of a group that just does cool things, like all that bullying kind of just went away. Mm-hmm. And there would be people here and there like, oh, dancing's gay or whatever, and I'm like, I don't care, like all of my friends think it's cool, so I think it's cool, you know what I mean? And it didn't really matter even if somebody were to criticize what I was doing, because we weren't good back then. We were like, we were just starting out. Like, we weren't really good at all. But the fact is, like, it was something that we really loved, and we always did it, so it didn't matter what anyone else said. So that's how I feel, at least. I know some people like might be afraid of showing their passion because they're afraid of bullying, but I would just tell people, like, don't even like listen to them, because what matters is what you want to do, right? And just don't listen to the haters, that's what it is.
Yeah. And how much practicing went on in those years? Like when
I danced every day. I danced. Well, the moment I learned, I danced every day. I remember this clearly too. Like every day, it would be in front of like a TV screen because I didn't have a mirror. Like I would just practice, and some days it would be for hours. Some days it would just be for like 30 minutes or whatever. But for as long as I can remember, I did it almost every day. Yeah, it was crazy. But at the same time, you have to think about it. Like, there were no studios, because studios you had to pay, right? And you have a schedule that you have to stick to. But imagine if you had no studio, you didn't have to pay. It's completely free to practice this, and if you love it, you're just gonna want it more and more. You know what I mean?
Dude, because I remember during the Saigon Electric years, at your peak, you were totally different than the way you are when I met you just recently. It was just two different people almost. And I was telling some of my buddies about it. Another executive producer who helped me, who was my exec producer on Saigon Electric. I was like, Ken's a totally different person than when I remembered you at the Saigon Performing Arts Center in Orange County. It's your vibe is different. Who you transformed into becoming. You're a lot more personable. Back then, you were, there was a level of, I think your mind was just so focused on the dance or wherever you were, but you weren't like present here.
Yeah, exactly. Different. Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. I didn't realize that until I looked back, because, like I said, I was just so deep into the passion that I did not care about anything else, because this was my thing. You know what I mean? I was very like, I basically matured. I basically kind of stepped out of my own avatar and kind of said, all right, what's going on with the rest of the world? But that didn't happen obviously right away. It was just through the multiple experience of life, in the past 10 years. It changes or not really change, but it brings out who you really are. You know what I mean? And now that I'm here, it feels like, wow, like that's what I've been doing the whole time. Just like that's the type of person I was. And now you're right. I am a completely different person just because of what I've experienced and what I've gone through and all the perspectives I've gained as well. It really kind of helped me figure out where my passion was for dance. Because yes, I love it, but I'm not in love with it, if that makes sense. Because once you're in it, you're just kind of enveloped in it. You're not really focused on anything else, right? And I think it's okay for people to be in that space because, you know, you should experience that once in a while to just to know what it's like to really zone in on something, right? Because that allows you to kind of experience life through a completely different lens.
Correct.
Right? But yeah, I think now where I'm at, the outside space where I'm not deeply in it anymore, it feels much more better. There's so much more room here. You know, you're more open to kind of experience more things.
Yeah, I was surprised when I approached you how open you were and how, you know, different. You were just a different person, 11, 12 years ago. And I feel blessed that, you know, the openness was very apparent and it was warm. You know, it was a very warm.
Oh, thank you. Wow, I've never heard that before, so I appreciate that. But yeah, you know what it could be also is what was I gonna say? Yeah, I don't know. It's just been so long that I used to be introverted, right? I used to, because think about it, dancing back then, like, it wasn't as cool. So it's kind of like the equivalent of like a comic book nerd. Like, I just want to like be in my corner, read my thing, be in private, and enjoy this hobby on my own, right? It wasn't big, it wasn't popular or anything. Now that it is, when I look back, I'm like, man, I was like super like closed off. I just like only cared about this one thing. But then I realized that it didn't have to be that way. And I started to become more extroverted, just socialize a lot more. And the funny thing is, dance was the reason why I became more extroverted, because it connected me to so many of my friends that I love today. It just opened so many doors. Like once you pick that one thing that you're in, like it leads you to so many other places. So I really appreciate what dance has done for me and for the people around me as well.
I just want to tell everybody who's listening and watching this that the Poreotics was elite. It was an elite group of young men that performed. I can't explain it because we're just using words to describe it, but the mechanics and the precision and the accuracy of the movements, I hope it one day comes back. I hope that it becomes popular again, because it's a shame that we don't get to have these. I don't know what the residencies for the Jabberwockies and, you know, these guys performing in Vegas. I don't know if they still have these shows or they're continuing, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And but I just want to comment and let people know that if anybody wants to check this out, go search them up on YouTube and look up the Poreotics, and you'll see what I'm talking about with Ken's ability.
Yeah. Just don't search back too far. You know, I might get a little embarrassed of how funny my hair was or whatever. I'm just kidding. But anyway, yeah, like I appreciate those words. Really, I do. I'm very grateful to have gone through this experience and to have made an impact on, everyone that's a part of this community. But it just saddens me a little bit that it's not big anymore. But at the same time, nothing is forever, right? You want to be able to look back to say, wow, that was such a good time for its time. But it is time to move on from that, right? Because otherwise, without change, like there's no progress, there's nothing, right? So it was great. It was a little bittersweet moment, but I'm happy overall that it's over. You know what I mean? Like the wave is over. Dancing is still going to be around. Our style is going to be still around. What we do has already kind of made an impact on all those people that started dancing because of us. So they're the ones that are going to continue that legacy based off of what we started, right? But you know what's funny? I say that we started, but we really didn't start it.
Mm-hmm.
It was already something that already happened that was passed on to us. And so that cycle will continue regardless if we're around or not. I'm just glad to be a part of that cycle. So even now, I still dance, I still do it. I still see other people doing what we used to do as well. And it makes me happy. I'm like, cool, it's still alive. I don't have to worry about anything. I did my part. Now they take on the rest of it. You know, they carry the rest of the slack. It's all good. You know, I don't think it's ever really going to go away. But like I said, it comes and goes in waves. It'll come back someday, you know? Who knows?
And you don't know how many people, young Vietnamese kids, that you affected during that period. Because, you know, I mean, let's face it, during that time, it's pretty early, like 10, 11 years ago, there was not a whole lot of Viet pride or Asian pride happening in the media. And to see this dance crew on national TV and having these Vietnamese kids, you know, I felt like the Vietnamese kids were leaders in the group, and the Filipino kids were like an addition, right?
Yeah. So it started with 3 Vietnamese guys. Yeah, straight up. Well, only because, you know, in OC, like, the Vietnamese people are here,
Yeah.
and it was just by happenstance, right? But the Filipinos came when we started competing in the college dance teams, and in the college dance space, lots of Filipino kids are like competing. We actually joined this group called Pac Modern, which is a Filipino American coalition, if I'm correct. I forget what Filipino Association or whatever, something like that, right? It's a Filipino club in Cal State Long Beach.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's Kaba Modern, there's like other groups that are just like that, and it's mostly Filipino culture doing dance competitions. And so when we joined that, we're like, hey, let's pick up a couple of these guys, put them in our group, and compete, you know, because we weren't really thinking about ethnicity or anything like that at the time. It just so happened that, oh, you guys are Filipino, you know. We never once thought, like, let's specifically pick these people because of their ethnicities. It was never like that. You know, it was all based off skill. It's skill, friendship, you know, how we bonded with each other. That was like the main thing. It's just like, are you cool? We're cool. All right, let's do it. You know, it wasn't anything. We never thought about it like that. But then once I look back, it's like the fact that we kind of mixed it up and didn't keep it to one ethnicity kind of like brought other people together as well. Right. Because we would go to the Philippines, right? And they would love us there, because it's like, once you do something in America and you bring it to the Philippines, that they love it, you know, because it's like you're representing the whole country, because it's such a small country, but there's so much passion going on and so much dance going on there. Same thing with Vietnam. We actually performed in Vietnam in 2013, and so many people were just like ready to receive us, because it's been like forever since anything Vietnamese has been big in America, for the whole world, for that fact. You know what I mean? So to me, it means a lot to be a part of that, and to be able to go to these countries of our origin and just dance there and share what we've been doing, you know, for so long. But yeah, it's a really beautiful thing, honestly.
Yeah, that experience of being sort of like the top dog and bringing that to Vietnam, and that's such a field that's so rare to have Vietnamese kids and Vietnamese young people, to bring that to the motherland and to kind of do exhibitions for the work that you did at the highest levels must have been such a unique feeling, right?
Yeah, because if you think about it, like, you don't really feel this level of acceptance, right? Until you start doing your own thing and you start visiting these places where people don't have this, right? And once you see how happy people are, and just through something that, you know, me and my friends were just doing in my backyard, and it led to this, it's like, it's unbelievable. And so for me to be able to experience that, it's like, wow, like people really love this. So I'm just glad that I'm able to give that experience to them, and it makes me happy, it makes them happy. It's kind of like a win-win for everyone, right? But yeah, I know that although it already happened, it's like it can still happen now with the new generation, and with even with myself now too. I feel like if I were to go back to Vietnam right now, teach classes or do a show or something, I still feel like that energy would be there. You know what I mean? It's just that there's got to be the right time, there's got to be the right events or whatever, right? So the thing is, like, I'm always going to be dancing. I'll always be there for dance. You know, I will show up when I need to show up for it, because I do treat it as its own entity almost.
Wow.
You know?
Are you still close to your team?
Close in a way, yes, but physically not close. Like we all kind of went our own separate ways, did our own things. We're still around. We still keep in touch here and there, but we're not like the type of friends where we're like, hey, let's see each other every day. But who is really nowadays, because once you get older, you have family, you got school or whatever, full-time jobs, whatever, right? I got a company I'm running, so it's like very difficult to meet up, right? Just because you have to take care of your own personal stuff, you have your life goals that you want to achieve, right? And that's totally understandable. But there will always be times where we're like, hey, let's get together, you know, do this, do that. Oh, so-and-so's wedding, let's go, you know? It's like that. So I think we're always going to be family. And you know how it is with family sometimes. Like, you're close, but you're not close. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like that. So the experiences that we've gone through together will, you know, never be forgotten. We're always going to be brothers in a way. But yeah, so we still keep in touch for sure, though.
How do you think your work when you were with the Poreotics has impacted Vietnamese people throughout the world?
I mean, from the looks of it and from my experience, it seems like it was very positive overall. I don't recall like ever hearing anything like, oh, you know, these guys are this or that. Or it's mostly overall good experience, you know. And it's funny because thinking back now, like through all the touring and the parties that we did, it's like we kind of didn't really even think about that. We were just like, yeah, let's just have fun. You know, let's have fun. Let's just do this, do that. But yeah, for the most part, it was really positive. And I think even now, I spoke to a few dancers that are from Vietnam that used to watch us, and they're still loving it. They're still going. They're competing. Like it's very much alive in Vietnam right now. There's a few Vietnamese poppers that I connected with through Instagram that I'm like, hey, keep representing, keep doing it, because I was once there, you know? So I always try to find talent and just kind of encourage them, because it's like you never know where that could take them, because if they see someone that they used to look up to, encourage them, it's just going to keep pushing it forward, you know? So I always try to give credit where it's due, especially to the younger generation.
You know, one of my questions that I prepared is, when you look at a dancer, or a layperson like me, when I look at a dancer, whether they're part of like a Poreotics or just dancing by themselves in a battle, what do you think makes somebody believable, or somebody you watch and you're like, I'm not buying that, right? Technical proficiency aside, like crisp, accurate movements aside, there's sometimes you're like looking at it going, I don't believe it. I'm not buying into whatever the fuck the story they're trying to present. I'm not into it.
It doesn't resonate with them,
It doesn't
right?
resonate. But other people less skilled, you're just like, whoa, I am. And, you know, sometimes there's these overweight dancers and, you know, you just see them doing their thing and you're like, oh my God, I am all in. What is that?
So if you take a step back, like not only is dance an art form, but it's a form of communication, right? And if you speak a language that someone understands, they go, light bulb, I get it. But if you're speaking a language that's completely foreign, completely, you know, out of the box for them, it's like, I don't get what's going on, even though you're speaking it very clearly.
Right.
You know, that's what it is. It's a form of communication, all the different styles, all the stories you're telling through dance, because, you know, you could tell stories, right? But it's visual. And for you to interpret that story or for the audience to interpret it, it really matters like who's watching, right? Because if they don't get it, then, you know, they haven't learned the language or they haven't understood it yet. So for some people that do really, really basic moves or really like fun, easy to learn moves, that resonates with such a bigger audience because people understand it. You know, like something like a popular dance trend or whatever, right? Like that requires almost zero skill to do. No training, you just do it. You copy it and you do it. But for some reason, that will explode in the social media space because, you know, people understand the language. Like they get it. Like, oh, it's a meme, or this is a trend, or this is that. So they get it, right? But then when you have something like that's super technical or whatever, even though it looks visually stunning, if I don't understand why this arm is out here or why this that, I'm just gonna be like, I'm bored. You know what I mean? So it doesn't always matter how much effort you put into it. What matters is that where that effort is going. Are you putting effort in your own physical ability to do the move, or are you putting effort into making sure the audience understands what you're doing? See, that's two completely different focuses, right? And so for our crew, we understood that because we would always tell jokes, we would always mess around, and we would do things other than just dancing. Like we would dance, but we also do something funny because we know, oh, they're going to laugh when they see this, because we want to get the audience involved. We don't want them to just watch us dance. We want them to be entertained. We want them to, you know, whatever. So there was that element added on top of that with our dance because you know, that's just the thing that we love to do. We like to make people laugh. We like to make people, you know, go, wow, you know. So for us, it was always about the audience. It's like, how can we make it so that they understand what we're doing and have a good time while we're doing it? So that's the difference between, you know, a dancer that, you know, does something cool but nobody gets it. And
the Poreotics have their spot. But you also worked with Just Kidding Films, Bart and Joe, which at the same time was, you know, Wong Fu and all of these sort of like the base level foundation for Asian American sort of media representation today that young people probably are not thinking of much, the really young, but you were involved in these multiple stratas and these multiple pockets of these organizations, if you will, and they still go on. Do you think that there is a second chapter for yourself beyond the dance and more in the realm of these media companies that I mentioned?
Yeah, I think naturally yes, because with film and with media, those types of businesses, if we're just talking business models, like those type of business models tend to last longer because there's already been a history of Hollywood, you know, the whole film industry, even in the indie film industry, that circuit has been going on for a while. YouTube kind of just brought it to a different space, right? And so that whole thing, it lives on right through that. And so naturally for me, if dancing's not working out and I'm in this other space, like I'm totally fine with that, because that gives me a chance to bring dancing to a new space, right? To YouTube or whatever, new media, right? And so I think even though I'm not touring anymore, I think being a part of this space is completely fine, because you were mentioning, yeah, there's like different businesses and companies, but at the same time, these are my friends. Like I grew up watching these guys. I live with these guys, you know. It's like they're just people that I know that are also willing to create and innovate and try to inspire other people to do the same. And so I just surround myself with people that do that. And so naturally, yeah, of course, like if I'm going to be video editing, like I'm basically just plugging myself into all these people that have been doing this for years. So to me, it's a way to kind of thrive, but also be creative at the same time, right? And so doing that kind of allowed me to not have the pressure of like, oh, I need to dance to make money, right? I can just dance to dance, like exactly how I started, right? Because when I started, it was like I'm just dancing because I love it. But then once it became a job, it's like now I'm dancing because I need to dance. See? And but the fact that I don't have to dance for money anymore, it makes me so much like more relieved to just be able to do it as a passion again. And honestly, that whole YouTube space with Just Kidding Films and everything, like they're the reason why I started the video editing company.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because it all started when I was editing for Just Kidding News, which is their other channel, right? And I just did that for side income. But then once they started referring me to other YouTubers and other podcasts and everything, my clientele started to grow. So I was like, okay, there's no way I could keep up with this. I need to start a company. And then started the company last year. And then we've just been going, new clients here, left and right, and just growing, right? And so now that that's going on, that has become my new, passion.
Yeah,
but
wow.
at this, yeah,
This is the second chapter.
exactly. This is it right here. You're in it.
I love it. Because now this is tying what you said about Steve Jobs earlier, right? It's tying in. You brought that up, right? When you look back on all the points.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
This is it. This is sort of like the connecting all the dots, and now you are in phase 2. And are you going as hard as you did with dance?
Even more so, because back then, I was kind of just along for the ride, right? Because we were in a group, so we were all kind of chipping in here and there. It didn't feel like it was just me. It feels like I was just a part of something, right? But now it's like, oh, this is something that I started. Like I'm the leader now. I have to be the one to say, hey, let's get this done. I make the calls, right? I go, all right, where do we want to go with this company? I do have a business partner as well, but he's in Korea right now. And so the funny thing about this company is mostly, if we're talking ethnicity, it's like all over the place. It's Vietnamese, Korean, we have a Mexican guy, and like it's just completely different, right? But at the same time, the impact that we're gonna make is, I see it. Like I have this vision for our company and where we're gonna go with it. I don't want to share it right now, but because it's, to me, it's something very personal. And it's like a journey that I share with like my friends and everybody in my company. We're all friends. Like that's the best part about it, because I told myself, okay, well, if I'm not gonna go back to a regular job, then I'm gonna start companies and only work with my friends. Because I look at Wong Fu, I look at JK, I look at like all the other YouTubers, they're all friends. They all work together as friends, and that's the only reason why they got to where they got to, because they work with people they trust, right? And at the same time, it feels much nicer to have a bunch of groups of friends get together for events and everything, and it's like, wow, you did this, cool. Like it's very inspiring to see that, right? And it's all just, it feels like much better that way, because it feels more like a family, and it doesn't feel like very corporate. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't feel empty. Like there's a lot of meaning behind it, and if you work with the right people, I think it's completely fine. But yeah, like that really inspired me to kind of just do all of this, was just creating a lifestyle where we're constantly growing, constantly learning, but all at the same time we're doing it with our friends, our brothers,
As far as like Wong Fu and Just Kidding, they had massive following and massive effect on young Asian Americans during their heyday. Is it still going on at that level, or has it died down?
To be honest, I do not know because I don't consume media the way that their audience does, right? Because I'm in my own space, I'm in my own thing. I'm not a Wong Fu. I'm not their target audience, if you know what I mean. So to me, I'm completely like unaware of like how they're received as filmmakers and all that. But I just know that anybody that talks about them always has a high level of respect for them, always. So to me, it's like, okay, you guys are fine. Like, just keep doing whatever you're doing. They found what works for them.
Yeah. And and JK too, Bart and Joe, they helped out with Saigon Electric in the early days as well, and I'm very thankful to those guys.
Yeah, so for them, I could talk about what they've been doing, because like I still work with them. They're kind of like reinventing in a way, but the funny thing is the way they're reinventing is kind of going back to their roots, and just kind of like
funny
just the boys talking. They did do skits here and there, but their main thing now is just to start conversations about very like not controversial topics, but like stuff that's harder to talk about, you know what I mean? And most of the time they're just roasting each other and like, you know, whatever, just making fun of each other and doing things. But that kind of brings them back to the old days where it was more about the camaraderie and about the friendship and about, you know, just getting together, right? And they brought that spirit back to where it is now. You can actually check it out. It's called the Careful Boys. So Just Kidding News, they have a segment now called Off the Record, Careful Boys, and it's just so much funnier than what it used to be, because before it would be more of like news and everything, but now it's more about news and comedy, and it's so much. I think what they're doing is great, but that also inspired me to go, you know what, like, if they've been doing it for this long and they constantly find new ways to like improve, it's like, okay, then I shouldn't have a problem. You know, I should be able to find something new as well. And it's very inspiring to see that.
Yeah, it is. It takes a lot of courage to do that too. You know, to evolve and to kind of find a new you. And, you know, because those guys have been at it since 2009, I want to say.
2007.
7.
Yeah, long time.
Running. That's like 15 years, right?
Yeah. And the crazy thing is they've gone through a lot of changes too, because I've kind of been there for all their changes. Yeah. And no matter what, not once were they like, yeah, let's just call it quits. Never. Because it's like, why? Like, this is their lifestyle now. Like, this is their business. It's what they do. It's like for me, if I ever were to quit dance, like, why should I?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's no point. So, yeah.
You know, thank you so much for, you know, this ability to be reconnected and the warmth that, you know, many years later, in life, we don't know what the next year, the next decade will bring. I think clearly we're beyond that decade and we're into our second decade now, early second decade of knowing each other, or knowing of each other. And I am so pleasantly surprised with how you've pivoted and you've changed. And I can't wait to see and hear and read about the next, you know, decade of your life and the things that you'll be doing in the media space. Thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me. Honestly, this was a lot of fun because I don't really get a platform to talk about this kind of stuff. Most of the time, it's just me dancing. So for me to even talk about any of this, it's like it makes me happy to be able to share that with somebody, you know, and plus on your platform to be able to share that with your audience as well. So I hope they enjoyed listening to this, because like you're never gonna get it anywhere else. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
and I don't know if we did enough dance justice, you know, because we talked about, you know, maybe 20% of, but that's what's been happening a lot with people that I've interviewed. It's like you come for the UFC or you come for the Poreotics, but you don't really get all of that. You only get a sliver of it. And sometimes I'm not sure if I'm doing justice to the audience, because, you know, they see Poreotics in the headlines and they're like, oh, we want to hear what Tan has to say.
I mean, you're just going to have to keep bringing me on, I guess. There's always more to talk about, man. Like, I've been getting into so much other stuff lately, but not just dance. But honestly, dance is the main thing that kind of brought me to everything. So I think we covered, like, pretty much, like,
cool,
you know, the history of it and everything. So I think it's good.
Yeah, and I think that just like other major podcasts, you have these recurring friends that come back and talk about different things throughout the life of, you know, I want to be doing this for the next 20 years. So, you know, coming back year after year to talk about different things that show up in the universe of our world, of our lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I would love to come back on for sure. This was really fun.
Thank you, Ken. Really appreciate it. And I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Have a good one.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to The Vietnamese with Kenneth Nguyen. The Vietnamese is produced by Brittany Tran. Special thanks to Jane Nguyen, Catherine Nguyen, Tina Pham, Sydney Jamie, and Christo Trin. Please find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at The Vietnamese Podcast. You can also find us on YouTube, where you can subscribe, like, and comment. Please rate and give us a review wherever you find our podcast. Thanks again for listening.